Greetings, dear listeners. Let go of all the thoughts of the day. Close your eyes, take a deep, slow breath, and allow the story to carry you away. Under the soft whisper of a fairy tale, it is easier and more pleasant to find your way into the deepest, most serene sleep. This story is read for you by me, Arthur Whitmore, in an old, cozy room filled with the calming fragrance of vanilla, aged paper, and a quiet, long awaited sleep, sat a little girl named Alice. She had almost surrendered to drowsiness. Her eyelids were heavy, and in her mind reigned a pleasant, relaxing emptiness. She held in her hands a book, the book, untitled, bound in worn velvet, which felt surprisingly cool and soothing to the touch. Before Alice could fully close her eyes, the book resting on her lap gave a soft but unmistakable sigh. Its pages opened on their own, and from the very heart of the text, like from a cloud of light mist, a tiny, improbable figure drifted out. It was the dream rabbit, all gray and fluffy, his paws tucked into miniature slippers. Instead of a watch, he carried an elegant, ornate scroll filled with the invisible but essential schedule of dreams. He wasn't hurrying, yet he moved with absolute resolve. The dream rabbit tilted his head and spoke to Alice in a whisper, like a forgotten gentle lullaby. O young keeper of wakefulness, the night awaits, and we must enter it without disturbing even a grain of its peace. To step upon the path of dreams, you must first become weightless. He handed her a tiny apothecary jar of dark, frosted glass. Inside swirled a thick, pearly liquid glowing faintly like the moon. From it drifted a divine fragrance, warm milk, spring honey, and the softest hint of sandalwood. On its label, written in script like ancient lace, were the words, "Elixir of Quiet Entry." Alice took the jar. Its warmth felt smooth in her hands, like polished stone. She inhaled deeply. The aroma thickened, as if she were sinking into a cloud of cream and apricot jam. Sleepy curiosity guided her. She uncorked the vial. She took a sip. The taste was soft and melting, like the gentlest milk chocolate, with a soothing aftertaste of vanilla. In that very moment, Alice felt her body lose its weight and form, shrinking, becoming as light as a feather. Satisfied, the dream rabbit pointed his paw toward an ink blot on the page, which now, with Alice so tiny, appeared as a wide, silent arch lined with velvet. Welcome to the forest of sleeping tales. Step gently. Seek the softest path. That is the key to deep immersion. Alice stepped forward, and her feet sank into something incredibly tender and springy. She stood upon a path paved with thick, feathery moss, the color of mint ice cream. Every step was a gentle, lulling fall, filling her with safety and peace. Around her rose trees, their trunks smooth and dark, like tall pillars of fragrant cocoa, releasing a delicate aroma of hot chocolate. Their leaves were thick, silken patches of indigo, which did not rustle, but sighed softly, spreading a gentle coolness through the forest. Deeper in this serene landscape, on the branch of a cocoa tree, rested a vast, tranquil figure, the blanket caterpillar. She was wrapped in a knitted scarf, and instead of smoke, round clouds drifted from her mouth, smelling of fresh bread, cinnamon, and promised warmth. Without opening her drowsy eyes, the blanket caterpillar mumbled in a voice deep and low, like the sound of a cello. O wanderer, you are here. Do not seek purpose, seek rest. The dreaming forest loves when you slow down to a whisper. Ahead lies the lake of gentle reflections and the meadow of lullaby grasses. Rest? Alice felt her legs grow softer, more relaxed upon the mint moss. She breathed in the thick aroma of chocolate, cinnamon, and vanilla, mingled with damp moss and river coolness. The path led toward a clearing wrapped in blue mist, where time itself seemed to pause, just to let her rest. Alice slowly left the meadow, her body pleasantly heavy and relaxed from the elixir of quiet entry she had drunk. The feathery moss path led her to the edge of the forest, where a deep, calm river began. Before her stretched the river, but its water was unusual. It was a thick, dark blue liquid, like warm blueberry custard, releasing a soft, fruity, soothing fragrance. The surface was perfectly still, and within it golden stars drifted gently like clouds. To cross the river, there was a bridge of hardened caramel. Wide and smooth, it glowed from within with a warm amber light. When Alice stepped onto it, the bridge was not sticky but cool and firm to the touch, carrying the scent of caramelized sugar and vanilla. Each of her steps was silent. Once across, she entered the sanctuary of sleeping animals. It was not a wild place, but rather an immense, impossibly cozy valley, veiled in soft, snowy mist. Everywhere, in the most curious poses, the strangest creatures slept. A giant dream bear, whose fur looked like soft, dark brown velvet, dozed with his paws wrapped around a mountain of pillows scented with mint. His quiet, deep breathing lulled the very air. Nearby, curled into a ball, slept the Serenity Fox, wrapped in her own fluffy russet tail, which carried the fragrance of dried orange peel and a faint trace of fireplace smoke. At the center of the sanctuary, Alice saw the great stone of reflection. But it was not stone. It was thick, smooth, cold white chocolate. Perched upon this chocolate stone, paws folded neatly, sat the sage hare, who too was sound asleep. His little ears were covered by tiny knitted earmuffs. Beside the hare stood a table carved from gingerbread. On it lay new magical treats. The first were candies of quiet joy. Matte and round, in the shades of lavender and lime, they rested in a bowl made of crisp vanilla biscuit. They gave off a sweet, herbal fragrance that instantly eased worry. Alice picked one up. Firm at first, it melted gently with a delicate floral flavor and a refreshing lemon aftertaste. The second was the cup of calm, a large earthen mug, some filled with a thick, warm drink the color of milky coffee. From it rose a strong, comforting aroma of caramel, nutmeg, and a faint smokiness. Alice took a slow sip. The taste was deep and enveloping, like being wrapped in a soft woolen blanket. Peace spread through her entire body. Alice sat down beside the sage hare, a pleasant heaviness settling over her. The warmth of the cup of calm in her hands gave her a sense of perfect harmony. Suddenly, the sage hare sighed softly without opening his eyes and murmured in a voice like the gentle rustle of pages. To reach the castle of slumber, you must find the path through the moaning walls. Go to the tower that carries the strongest scent of sleep. Peace itself will lead you there. Alice rose, leaving the sanctuary of sleepers behind. She felt her steps growing slower, smoother. The path now led upward, and the aroma of hot chocolate gave way to the scent of warm, aged stone and cool mint. Ahead, through the thick blue mist, appeared the outlines of the majestic castle of slumber. Alice's path now led upward along a gentle slope, and she felt her body sway pleasantly in rhythm with her slow steps. The ground beneath her feet turned into a wide road, paved with soft mother of pearl that glowed with a dim, soothing pink light. The aroma of hot chocolate and caramel now mingled with the cool scent of old damp stone and the faintest trace of sea salt. Ahead, wrapped in a veil of blue mist, rose the castle of dreaming. It was not grim or menacing, but looked like a vast, soft cloud that had taken the shape of a fortress. Its walls were laid with blocks that resembled marshmallows, yet they were solid, radiating a warm, muted glow. This was the place the wise hare had spoken of, the moan of the walls. Yet the moan was not a sound of pain, but a deep, many voiced, lulling hum, like the faint, continuous tone of a flute or the distant murmur of a waterfall. It was the collective sigh of the entire sleeping world, and it washed over Alice in a wave of absolute calm. At the castle gates, woven from interlaced silver branches, sat a huge but perfectly still guardian cat. He did not smile like the Cheshire one, but looked very old fashioned and majestic, his fur the color of deep indigo. His eyes moved slowly and heavily, like pendulums. Welcome, purred the cat, his voice velvet soft and resonant, like the sound of a double bass. The castle accepts only those who have forgotten where they were hurrying. Have you come for the silence of the story? Alice, feeling her tongue turn a little heavy with drowsiness, managed only a nod. The guardian cat slowly raised his paw and pointed to a small niche in the wall. Before you enter, you must taste the bread of forgetting. It will free you from the last clinging thoughts. Inside the niche lay a large, round loaf of the bread of forgetting. Its crust was soft, golden brown, and it smelled impossibly sweet and comforting, of fresh butter, cardamom, and warm summer hay. Beside it stood a small jar of oil of lightness. The oil was clear, almost weightless, carrying the scent of freshly picked mint and citrus. Alice broke off a piece of bread. It felt airy, porous, yielding. The taste was rich and deep, as though she were eating something profoundly nourishing and consoling. Its aftertaste lingered warm and nutty. She spread the oil of lightness across the bread. It melted on her tongue, leaving behind a refreshing coolness. After this supper, she felt her mind begin to slow down. The thoughts that still remained drifted sluggish and hazy, like clouds on the horizon. Perfect, murmured the guardian cat. Now follow the spiral staircase of rest. It will lead you to the highest tower, the Tower of Serenity. The cat turned gracefully away, and the silver gates opened without a sound. Alice stepped inside. The air within the castle was thicker and warmer, scented with wax and old dusty tapestries. The walls were soft to the touch, and the light filtering through the narrow windows was diffused and olive-hued. She found the spiral staircase of rest. Its steps were made of the softest gray felt, and so shallow that climbing required no effort at all. With each turn of the staircase, Alice felt her heart beat slow, her breath becoming more steady and deep. The staircase led her upward into the quietest part of the castle, where the Tower of Serenity awaited. The spiral staircase of rest, soft as gray felt, seemed to stretch into infinity, yet the climb never wearied her. It only deepened her drowsiness. Alice felt her body drifting weightlessly upward, while the surrounding scents grew ever purer and subtler. The aroma of damp stone slowly gave way to the fragrance of clean sheets and crisp mountain air. At last, the staircase ended before the Tower of Serenity. Its door was made of thick, transparent ice, not cold, but exquisitely smooth and cool to the touch, like finely polished glass. Beyond the door awaited the Chamber of Sweet Mist. It was a spacious, round room filled with a soft violet haze, hanging in the air as a dense yet utterly gentle veil. The mist was sweet and warm, smelling of marzipan and rose petals. In the center stood the room's only piece of furniture, a low, round table carved from gleaming blue onyx. Upon it rested a new and most delicate assortment of enchanted treats. The first was the marshmallow of forgetting, large golden squares floating on a small plate made of crystallized ginger. They exuded a rich, warming fragrance of vanilla and caramelized sugar. Beside them, in an old rounded vase, lay the orbs of slumbering light, small emerald green spheres, like berries, glowing faintly from within. Their scent was sharp and herbal, like fresh lemon balm, yet deeply soothing. Alice reached out and picked up a marshmallow of forgetting. It was weightless and soft, like a cloud. She took a bite. The taste was pure and enveloping, like hot creme brulee, and it instantly drew a deep, contented yawn from her. Then she tried one of the orbs of slumbering light. As she placed it on her tongue, it burst into a cool, gentle juice, fresh and herbal, leaving a sensation of clarity and coolness in her mouth. Suddenly, the mist thickened, and out of it glided a figure. It was the poet mouse, but taller, thinner, dressed in a long silk vest. In his hands he held not a quill, but a tiny glowing ball of thread. The poet mouse looked at Alice with kind, weary eyes, and spoke in a voice like the soft rustle of a stuffed pillow. "You have come to complete your journey, young wanderer. This mist, it is the densest, oldest dream. Here, words become threads." He held out the ball of thread to her. It was warm and soft to the touch, scented with dried chamomile and sunlight. Above, at the very top of the tower, the poet mouse continued, lies the nest of completion. It is the place where one may finish the sleep that was left unfinished. To reach it, you need only unwind the thread. It will create the path for you. And remember, sleep is not an end, but the true beginning of peace. Alice took the glowing thread. At once, a pleasant heaviness spread through her, like velvet stillness settling over her body. Slowly, she walked toward the far side of the chamber, where the mist was thickest, and began to unwind the warm, shining thread. Immediately, it rose upward, weaving an invisible yet tangible pathway through the ceiling. Alice walked slowly forward, letting the glowing, warm thread guide her through the thick, violet mist that smelled of marzipan and rose petals. The thread, like a faithful guiding star, rose upward, slipping through an unseen passage in the ceiling of the Tower of Serenity. Soon she found herself on an entirely new level. It was the summit of the tower, though not open to the sky. Above her stretched a soft, translucent dome woven from the thinnest milk-white silk. Here it was astonishingly quiet. Even the deep sigh of the castle barely reached this place. The air was cooler and purer, carrying the freshness of morning rain with the faintest trace of vanilla powder. At the very center of this secluded space, where the thread had led her, lay the nest of completion. It was not a bird's nest, but an enormous round resting place, woven from thick velvet ribbons of deep blue and gentle sky blue. The nest was so vast and inviting that Alice felt an irresistible urge to curl up inside it. It was filled with the softest pillows, made from weightless white down and scented with dried chamomile and honey. At the heart of the nest, waiting for her, sat a tiny smiling marshmallow mouse, made entirely of pale pink, airy marshmallow. He was perfectly still, yet his eyes, like two tiny beads of dark chocolate, shone with warmth and friendliness. Beside the marshmallow mouse stood the last cup. It was crafted from ivory-colored porcelain and filled with a thick, warm drink of lavender hue. Sweet steam drifted above it, carrying the fragrance of hot milk, linden blossom, and a delicate hint of spice. Without moving, the marshmallow mouse squeaked in a voice like the gentle pop of a soap bubble, "Drink, young wanderer. This is the potion of deep sleep. It will bring the story to rest and make it endlessly calm." Alice carefully took the cup. It was warm and smooth against her palms, the heat already lulling her hands into drowsy comfort. She took a slow, deep sip. The taste was perfect, sweet, enveloping, warm, like the most loving embrace, with a creamy aftertaste and a floral trace of lavender. As soon as the drink touched her throat, Alice felt the last grains of consciousness settling to the bottom, like sand in a still hourglass. She sank into the nest of completion. The velvet ribbons and downy pillows wrapped around her, cradling her in weightless safety. She closed her eyes. There was nothing she needed to think about, nothing she needed to do. Her body floated in softness as she breathed the sweet, soothing air, steeped in chamomile and vanilla powder. Alice understood she had nowhere else to go. She had reached the quietest point of her journey, and while she lay there in the nest of completion, her story would go on, slow and serene, until morning. Alice lay in the nest of completion. Velvet ribbons and the softest down pillows enfolded her, making her feel not as though she were lying still, but drifting in a warm, dense cloud. She was completely submerged in a heavy, pleasant drowsiness. The thread of sleep she had unraveled now rested beside her, glowing with a faint, pulsing light, like the slow heartbeat of utter calm. Here there was no need to hurry, no reason to worry. The air was the purest and gentlest, its scent of lavender, chamomile, and vanilla powder so familiar it felt like part of her own being. Every cell of her body sank into complete, absolute relaxation. She half opened her eyes and looked at the marshmallow mouse. He still sat there, smiling his tiny pink smile. Slowly, the mouse raised a paw and pointed toward the dome's wall. The dome of milk-white silk was not just a covering, it was woven from dreams. Alice saw misty images begin to appear upon it, like pictures rising through fog. They were not her own dreams, but the quiet, ancient dreams of the world itself. She saw immense rose petals, as large as boats, floating down a river. She saw sheep, as fluffy as clouds, leaping over an invisible fence, each jump ringing not with bleats, but with tiny bell-like chimes. She saw an ancient, wise lighthouse, shining not with a harsh beam, but with a soft, golden glow that promised a safe return. Each vision was deeply peaceful and soothing, asking nothing, only caressing the gaze like slow, visual lullabies. As Alice gazed at the silk dome, her eyes began to close of their own accord, her eyelids heavy as lead. Her thoughts turned slow, warm, and rounded, like stones smoothed by the tide. The marshmallow mouse gave a quiet, sugary sigh, the gentlest sound within silence itself. He lifted a tiny chocolate whistle in his paws and blew into it so slowly, so delicately, it was almost unnoticeable. There was no sound, only the sense that the air grew thicker, softer. It was a signal to the deepest peace. Alice realized she was at the very heart of the dream, a dream that was infinite, tender, and safe. She breathed in the scent of vanilla and down, and it wrapped around her like the finest, most beloved blanket. As Alice sank into the deepest and safest sleep, having hidden the box of slumber in the softest pillow of the nest of completion, the story within the castle of dreams did not end. It merely slowed to a whisper. Far below, away from the Tower of Serenity, the dream rabbit, still gray and fluffy with soft slippers on his paws, began his nightly rounds. He glided gently through the felt lined corridors of the castle, checking on quiet and comfort. On a tiny tray, he carried two small glowing spheres, one golden and warm. This was the warmth of comfort, and the other a gentle indigo. This was the coolness of calm. The dream rabbit moved unhurriedly. He descended the spiral staircase of rest, breathing in the fragrance of wax and old tapestries, a scent as ancient and reliable as the night itself. At the castle's entrance, he found the guardian cat now asleep, velvet paws draped over his grand nose. The rabbit stopped. He set the sphere of coolness of calm beside the cat, so his sleep would be fresh and long. The sphere melted softly, filling the air around him with the scent of damp moss and cool mint. The rabbit went on, passing the marshmallow walls, which now gave off only the faintest lullaby like sigh. He made his way to the lake of gentle reflections. There, on the shore, the Sphinx owl still slept, wrapped in his cashmere shawl. The rabbit carefully placed the sphere of warmth of comfort on the smooth pink marble beside him. The sphere dissolved, releasing a thick, cozy fragrance of ginger and honey, so the Sphinx could rest warmly in the chill by the lake. By the silvery grasses on the shore, the rabbit noticed the little glass jar of carefreeness from which Alice had once drunk. It was empty. From his velvet pocket, he drew a silver spoon and carefully gathered the last drop of dew from a blade of grass, placing it into the jar. This dew was no ordinary moisture, but the essence of forgotten worries, now transformed into a sweet, harmless mist. The rabbit sighed softly. His small journey was free of all haste. Slowly, he turned back toward the forest of sleeping tales. He thought about how important it was for deep, unbroken peace to reign in every corner of the night. His slippers glided soundlessly along the sandy path. Around him stretched an incredible, enveloping stillness, filled with the fragrance of jasmine flowers and warm milk. As Alice sank into the deepest and safest sleep, having hidden the box of slumber in the softest pillow of the nest of completion, the story within the castle of dreams did not end. It merely slowed to a whisper. Far below, away from the Tower of Serenity, the dream rabbit, still gray and fluffy with soft slippers on his paws, began his nightly rounds. He glided gently through the felt lined corridors of the castle, checking on quiet and comfort. On a tiny tray, he carried two small glowing spheres, one golden and warm. This was the warmth of comfort, and the other a gentle indigo. This was the coolness of calm. The dream rabbit moved unhurriedly. He descended the spiral staircase of rest, breathing in the fragrance of wax and old tapestries, a scent as ancient and reliable as the night itself. At the castle's entrance, he found the guardian cat now asleep, velvet paws draped over his grand nose. The rabbit stopped. He set the sphere of coolness of calm beside the cat, so his sleep would be fresh and long. The sphere melted softly, filling the air around him with the scent of damp moss and cool mint. The rabbit went on, passing the marshmallow walls, which now gave off only the faintest lullaby-like sigh. He made his way to the lake of gentle reflections. There, on the shore, the Sphinx owl still slept, wrapped in his cashmere shawl. The rabbit carefully placed the sphere of warmth of comfort on the smooth pink marble beside him. The sphere dissolved, releasing a thick, cozy fragrance of ginger and honey, so the Sphinx could rest warmly in the chill by the lake. By the silvery grasses on the shore, the rabbit noticed the little glass jar of carefreeness from which Alice had once drunk. It was empty. From his velvet pocket, he drew a silver spoon and carefully gathered the last drop of dew from a blade of grass, placing it into the jar. This dew was no ordinary moisture, but the essence of forgotten worries, now transformed into a sweet, harmless mist. The rabbit sighed softly. His small journey was free of all haste. Slowly, he turned back toward the forest of sleeping tales. He thought about how important it was for deep, unbroken peace to reign in every corner of the night. His slippers glided soundlessly along the sandy path. Around him stretched an incredible, enveloping stillness, filled with the fragrance of jasmine flowers and warm milk. The dream rabbit glided soundlessly along the path, paved with sandy pollen, and soon reached the bridge of frozen caramel. He did not cross the river, but turned instead toward the sanctuary of sleeping animals. The air there was heavy with deep slumber, saturated with the fragrance of plush, fresh wood, and warm cocoa. The dream rabbit slowed his pace, making sure every creature was resting peacefully. He stopped beside the sage hare, who still dozed upon the stone of reflection made of white chocolate. The hare gave a faint, sweet snore, like the soft rustle of paper. The rabbit nodded with satisfaction, knowing the hare's thoughts were calm and untroubled. Then the dream rabbit moved toward the edge of the sanctuary, where the tree of fragrant cocoa grew. On one of its branches rested the blanket caterpillar, still wrapped in her knitted scarf. The blanket caterpillar was not merely asleep, she was the very embodiment of stillness. She was so vast that her slow, deep breathing stirred the air of the entire forest in a gentle, soothing rhythm. From her mouth she released round, drifting clouds that now carried the scent of warm vanilla milk and cinnamon sugar. The dream rabbit came very close. "Blanket caterpillar," he whispered, his voice softer than the rustle of silk. "Everyone in the castle sleeps. The story is stabilized. Alice is in the nest of completion." The blanket caterpillar very, very slowly opened one drowsy eye. It was deep and wise, the color of damp, ancient moss. "Good," murmured the caterpillar, her voice deep and low, like the sound of the earth itself. "Now I must compress time, so that the night may be the longest and the calmest." She drew the deepest, longest breath the dream rabbit had ever heard. She inhaled the aromas of vanilla, moss, chocolate, and caramel, along with the last remnants of motion and haste. Then, with immense slowness and dignity, she released the air. It was the caterpillar's slow exhale. As that breath spread through the forest of sleeping tales, everything grew even thicker, denser, more motionless. Time itself slowed to a perfect point of stillness. The leaves on the trees froze, and the sweet fragrances became heavy and tangible. The dream rabbit felt sleep beginning to overtake him, too. The slippers on his paws grew heavier. He knew his work was done. It was time to return to Alice, to rest beside her calm. The dream rabbit turned smoothly, almost lazily, and began his long, unhurried journey back up the slope to the castle of dreams. The journey back, after the caterpillar's slow exhale, felt to the dream rabbit like gliding through thick, warm syrup. It took him a long time just to cover the short distance from the forest to the castle. Each step was incredibly soft and viscous, amplifying the sense of deep, all encompassing calm. He slid smoothly along the path paved with mother of pearl. The cocoa aroma and vanilla sweetness from the forest gradually gave way to the scent of cool, old stone and fresh linens wafting from the castle, a smell that promised reliability and prolonged rest. At the gates of the Castle of Dreams, the keeper cat slept even more deeply, now fully enveloped in the cool scent of mint. The dream rabbit glided past silently, careful not to disturb the quiet. Climbing the spiral staircase of calm took what felt like an eternity. The gray felt steps were so soft that the dream rabbit felt his paws sink into comfort. With each turn, he inhaled increasingly pure and delicate air, drawing closer to the Tower of Serenity. At last, he reached the room of sweet mist. The lavender haze, scented with marzipan and rose, was now thick and still, like suspended jelly. The poet mouse dozed quietly, his silk vest softly shimmering in the dim light. The dream rabbit passed by, lifting his nose. He caught the faintest scent from above, the fragrance of down, chamomile, in deep, unwavering sleep. He understood that Alice was indeed profoundly immersed in slumber. He found the passage to the very top, the place where the glowing, warm thread had led. Climbing up, he saw the nest of completion. It was a perfect, serene haven. Alice slept, curled up in the soft, expansive bed of velvet ribbons. Her head rested on the very down pillow where the dream box had been safely tucked. The marshmallow mouse sat beside her head, its tiny bead-like eyes closed. The dream rabbit very slowly and carefully climbed to the edge of the nest. He found a small, cozy spot near Alice's foot. Curling into a little ball, his soft, plush robe touched the velvet ribbons of the bed. Everything was complete. Every detail of the story was in place, and the plot had dissolved into tranquility. The only thing that remained now was the sense of warmth, safety, and endless, lulling silence. The dream rabbit closed his eyes, inhaling the thick, sweet air, and let the caterpillar's slow exhale lull him into sleep as well. Alice was asleep. She lay completely still and relaxed in the nest of completion, feeling the warmth and softness beneath her, the sweet, thick air surrounding her. Beside her, curled into a little ball, slept the dream rabbit, his presence cozy and reassuring. Her eyes were closed, yet it seemed to her that she could see with her skin. She felt the calm around her become absolute and tangible. Above her, on the soft, milky white silk dome, floated slow dreams. They resembled enormous, delicate watercolors, flowing very, very gradually into one another. These dreams carried no anxiety or action. They were pure calm. Alice saw a serene, vast sea, not blue, but the color of warm, creamy custard. Across it drifted enormous, fluffy clouds that looked like pieces of vanilla marshmallow. They moved extremely slowly, at the pace of a deep, slow exhale. Then the scene shifted, and she saw an endless meadow covered in velvet grass the color of soft indigo. On this grass lay millions of tiny glowing stones, warm in appearance and scented like sun-warmed earth and dried chamomile. They did not shine brightly, but pulsed with a very gentle, lulling light. Alice's sensations became weightless and floating. She felt her body sinking ever deeper into softness, her breath becoming as even and quiet as the hum of a distant flute. The air carried a constant, comforting scent, sweet and reliable, like the finest memory of home: vanilla, lavender, honey, and down. This fragrance was the anchor of her sleep. Her thoughts, if they arose at all, were like gentle, rounded stones silently rolling across soft grass. No thought lingered. None caused disturbance. There was only warmth, silence, and weightlessness. The marshmallow mouse, motionless, seemed to guard the boundary between her dream and the waking world. He was the sweetest, quietest sentinel. And as Alice lay immersed in this calm, visual ocean, time in the castle of dreams remained motionless, dense, and infinite. Beside Alice in the nest of completion, the dream rabbit slept especially soundly. His small, fluffy body lay completely still. He rested on the edge of a pillow, his velvet robe gently wrapping around him. He was not just asleep. He had become a guardian of sleep, now part of this profound calm. Through her drowsiness, Alice felt the warmth emanating from the rabbit. It was a cozy, reliable warmth, like the heat of a stone stove on a cold evening. It served as a soft, living anchor in this world of weightlessness. Even in sleep, the dream rabbit gave off a faint, its pleasant scent, the smell of old clean fur, vanilla cookies, and dry hay. This aroma lulled and soothed Alice even more, blending with the thick, sweet fragrances of the nest. In the rabbit's paws was still his ornate scroll with the schedule of dreams. But now the scroll was completely empty. All tasks had been completed, all items fulfilled. It had become simply a soft, blank sheet, scented with delicate rice paper and honey. Alice, continuing her deep immersion, became aware of her own sensations. Her body was so relaxed that she felt the weight of her arms and legs vanish. In place of weight was a gentle, warm swaying, as if she were lying in a hammock woven from moonlight. She focused on sound. There was none, only absolute dense silence, occasionally broken by the faint, sweet sigh of the marshmallow mouse or the very distant, muffled hum of the castle of dreams. Yet even these sounds were lulling and distant, not disturbing the calm, only affirming its depth. Beneath her head, in the pillow, the box of slumber rested safely and quietly. Alice knew her sleep was secure and endless. There was no need to wake until she felt the first gentle ray of morning. Across the silk dome, a new image drifted slowly. An infinitely long, soft bridge made of white, airy cotton, stretching into a delicate lavender haze. It led nowhere, and in that nowhere lay the deepest comfort. Alice was completely absorbed in sleep. The boundaries between her body and the softness of the nest of completion had almost vanished. She felt her body pleasantly sinking into comfort, as if she were the lightest feather on the softest pillow. It was a sensation of absolute weightlessness, accompanied by an inner silence. This silence was not the absence of sound, but a deep, velvety taste, the taste of pure, unsweetened caramel wrapping gently around her mind. She remembered the last cup with the drink of deep sleep. She felt the warmth of the lavender beverage, still slowly, very slowly, spreading through her veins, soothing every cell. Beneath her, deep within the down pillow, she sensed the faint, constant coolness of the box of slumber. It was a calming, reliable chill, assuring her that sleep was firmly secured and would go nowhere. Above her head, through the silk dome, the slow dreams continued their endless, unhurried march. Now Alice saw a meadow covered with gigantic, slowly melting sugar cubes, smelling of warm milk and almonds. Nearby, the dream rabbit let out a soft sigh, and the scent of vanilla cookies rippled outward in waves. Alice felt her own breathing align with its rhythm, becoming even deeper and steadier. The marshmallow mouse beside her head seemed to shrink and soften even more, almost merging with the pillow. It was the sweetest detail in this profound tranquility. Everything in this place was designed for rest. The light was gentle, the scents warm, and the sensations weightless. She could lie here for an eternity, and it would never tire her. The entire Tower of Serenity was now soaked in absolute silence, yet Alice, in her deep sleep, felt echoes of the outside world. These were not alarming sounds, but waves of calm reaching her from afar. She sensed a wave gently passing through the thickness of the walls and down, borne from the slow sigh of the blanket caterpillar. This wave was slow and wide, like a very distant, soft surf. It carried with it a sense of deep, unshakable tranquility from the entire forest of sleeping tales. Along with this wave, a faint yet distinct scent reached Alice, the aroma of caramelized sugar, warm wood, and dry chamomile, the very scents she had encountered in the earliest parts of her journey. These smells were comforting, like old, beloved memories, gently wrapping her slumber. She saw, at the edge of her drowsy consciousness, the bridge of frozen caramel over the blueberry Kissel Lake, slowly glowing with a warmer golden light. It was the warmth of calm spreading throughout the sleeping world. Nearby, the dream rabbit rolled onto his side in his sleep, his fluffy robe sliding softly over the velvet of the nest. His movement was so smooth and slow that it did not disturb the silence, but only affirmed its depth. Alice felt her own relaxation deepen from his serene presence. On the silk dome, a new image appeared, a vast, quiet field sown with bellflowers made of transparent sugar glass. They made no sound but silently shimmered in soft, indigo light. It was pure visual serenity. Surrounded by warmth, gentle fragrance, and absolute silence, Alice continued to sink deeper into sleep. She felt cozy and safe, knowing that her journey had ended in the softest place of the entire castle of dreams. In her deep drowse, Alice focused her sleepy attention on the marshmallow mouse. He sat near her head, now almost invisible, blending seamlessly with the softness of the downy pillow. He was the sweetest, most motionless guardian of this calm. The mouse was made of pale pink, airy marshmallow. From him came a subtle, incredibly cozy scent of vanilla powder and cotton candy, enveloping Alice's head like a light, fragrant halo. She felt that this presence guaranteed her safety from any small, pesky thoughts that might try to intrude on her sleep. In his tiny paws, the mouse held a miniature chocolate whistle. It made no sound, but Alice felt that if even the slightest worry arose, the mouse would whistle silently, and the thick lilac mist from the room of sweet fog would instantly wrap around her like a soft blanket. The dream rabbit beside her let out a quiet sigh, and Alice felt warmth of his body radiate into her leg, soothing and grounding her in this world of weightlessness. The aroma of vanilla cookies grew stronger, deepening the sense of homely comfort. On the silk dome above, a new, calm image appeared, a vast, slowly spinning globe made of pure, transparent honey. It glowed with warm, golden light, and there were no countries on it, only fields of gentle silence and oceans of absolute peace. Alice felt that she was not sleeping, but slowly drifting in this honeyed light. She felt incredibly warm, soft, and safe.